A'ja Wilson is widely regarded as one of the best basketball players in the world, but recently she's found herself an unexpected rivalry with Caitlin Clark. Wilson, a three-time MVP and Las Vegas Aces champion, made headlines when her reaction to Clark's latest accolade went viral. It left fans and analysts alike questioning, is this a case of professional jealousy or something deeper? The drama began when Caitlin Clark, a rising star in women's basketball, was honored by Time magazine as one of their featured athletes. For Wilson, this seemed to hit a nerve. Shortly after the announcement, she took to Twitter, not with a single post, but a series of fiery tweets that rocked the basketball community. She questioned not only the award itself, but also the broader recognition system in women's sports. Wilson's frustration stemmed from what she perceives as an underlying bias. In an interview with the Associated Press, she said, "Clark's popularity has a lot to do with her race. It feels like no matter what we do as black women, we're always pushed aside." These comments sparked an intense debate, bringing issues of race and recognition to the forefront of WNBA discussion. The timing of Wilson's outburst was telling. Just days earlier, she had been celebrating another incredible season with the Aces, a team she helped transform into a powerhouse. Her stats were nothing short of remarkable. She averaged over 20 points per game, dominated defensively, and played a pivotal role in securing back-to-back championships. Yet, despite her consistent excellence, it was Clark, a rookie in comparison, who seemed to capture the media spotlight. Wilson's fans quickly rallied to her defense, flooding social media with comparisons of the two players. They highlighted her unmatched achievements, her game-changing play, and her leadership both on and off the court. Some argued that Wilson's contributions to the WNBA dwarfed those of Clark, making the Time magazine feature feel unfair. However, while Wilson's supporters were vocal, the reaction from her fellow WNBA players was surprisingly muted. Many veterans of the game, who had faced similar challenges with recognition, chose to remain silent. Their lack of response spoke volume, leaving Wilson to navigate the backlash largely on her own. This isn't the first time Wilson has faced scrutiny. Despite her superstar status complete with his signature Adidas shoe deal and soaring jersey sales, she often feels her accomplishments are overshadowed. In one of her tweets, she implied that staying silent might have made her more likable, but emphasized that she couldn't ignore the broader issues at play. "If I just focused on my game and ignored everything else," Wilson said, "maybe I'd be more popular, but I can't stay quiet about things that matter. This isn't just about me, it's about all black women in this sport." Clark, for her part, has stayed out of the controversy, focusing on her game and letting her achievements speak for themselves. At just 22 years old, she's already shattered some records and brought new attention to women's basketball. Her ability to draw fans and media attention has been remarkable, but it also highlights the disparities that players like Wilson are calling out. The WNBA, a league already battling for visibility compared to its male counterpart, now finds itself at the center of a cultural conversation. As the new season approaches, fans are eager to see how this tension unfolds on the court. Will Wilson and Clark's rivalry ignite new interest in the league, or will it deepen existing divides? One thing is certain, this isn't just about awards or accolades. It's about fairness, recognition, and the fight for equality in sports, a fight that A'ja Wilson seems determined to lead, no matter the cost. Paige reminds me of someone who recognizes her privilege and knows how to use it to her advantage. She's undeniably talented at basketball, but her awareness of how privilege elevates her is what sets her apart. This dynamic mirrors what we've been witnessing in real time with A'ja Wilson's reaction to Caitlin Clark's rising stardom. Wilson's tweets began with subtle jabs, but quickly escalated to direct accusation. She didn't just stop at expressing frustration. She openly questioned the motives of the media, suggesting bias in coverage and hinting at systemic issues within the sport. Her social media presence became a powerful force, with her following growing rapidly as fans rallied behind her word. What started as a personal expression of frustration soon transformed into a larger movement about equity and recognition in women's basketball. The drama intensified when Caitlin Clark's Nike deal was announced, complete with a signature shoe line. Wilson responded with a string of tweets, 4 or 5 in quick succession, lamenting how she would never receive the recognition she felt she deserved. She suggested that Clark's race played a significant role in her skyrocketing success, reigniting the debate about privilege and representation competition in sports. Media outlets seized on the story instantly. Sports analysts, who usually focused on stats and game strategies, found themselves dissecting Wilson's social media behavior. Opinions were divided. Some defended her right to speak her mind, arguing that her frustration was justified. Others questioned whether a player of her stature should let a rookie's success affect her so visibly. The debate quickly transcended basketball, drawing in social media influencers, commentators, and fans from other sports. What started as a reaction to a magazine feature had grown into a national conversation about respect and representation. Meanwhile, Wilson's sponsor, Adidas, found themselves in an awkward position. Their star athlete was making headlines, but not for her championship victories or record-breaking performances. Instead, she was trending for what many perceived as an emotional outburst against a rising competitor. This wasn't the kind of attention any brand wants, and it raised questions about how companies navigate the personal lives of their endorsers in the age of social media. The situation took an unexpected twist when old clips of Wilson's interviews began resurfacing. In these videos, she spoke passionately about supporting young talent, being a role model, and uplifting the next generation of players. When juxtaposed with her recent tweets, the contrast was striking. It painted a picture of a champion struggling to reconcile her role as a leader with the realities of a changing sport. Basketball blogs and forums dove deep into the controversy, analyzing every word Wilson had said about Clark compared to other rookies. They noticed how her tone shifted when discussing Clark's achievements, pointing out that her tweets often coincided with milestones in Clark's career. It was less about direct competition and more about the recognition Clark was receiving for her accomplishment. Former WNBA stars entered the conversation, though most approached it cautiously. They empathized with the pressure of being at the top and the challenges of staying there. Some shared personal stories of what it felt like to pass the torch to younger players. However, most agreed on one thing: being a leader in the sport requires balancing personal feelings with the greater good of the game. As the conversation continues, Wilson finds herself at a crossroad. Will she use this moment to amplify the broader issues she's highlighted, or will the focus remain on her personal grievances? One thing is certain: this debate has sparked a necessary dialogue about privilege, recognition, and fairness in women's basketball, a dialogue that's long overdue. A'ja Wilson's public reaction seemed to do more harm than good, especially for herself. The controversy hit a boiling point when a fan suggested she focus on her own game. Her response, dripping with sarcasm, went viral. "Focus on my game. 3 MVPs isn't enough focus?" Though the tweet was deleted within hours, screenshots quickly spread, igniting yet another wave of criticism and conversation. Sports psychologists weighed in, offering insights into the immense pressure faced by athletes like Wilson, who are not only expected to dominate on the court, but also serve as the face of the league. They speculated that her reaction revealed deeper insecurities about her legacy and place in basketball history. Maintaining dominance in an evolving sport, particularly in the social media era, is no easy feat, and Wilson's emotional responses highlighted just how challenging that balancing act can be. The Las Vegas Aces PR team worked overtime to manage the fallout. They emphasized Wilson's positive contributions, her community outreach, leadership, and dedication to growing the game. But every new tweet from Wilson made their job harder. How do you shift the narrative when the central figure keeps adding fuel to the fire? As the days passed, the conversation shifted. The initial shock of Wilson's tweets gave way to broader questions about the dynamics of competition in women's sports. Fans and analysts alike discussed the pressure of staying relevant in a social media-driven world, as well as the complex relationships between established stars and rising talents. This incident revealed something significant about modern sports. It's no longer just about what happens on the court. Every tweet, post, or public reaction becomes a part of an athlete's story. For Wilson, what began as frustration over Caitlin Clark's Time magazine feature turned into a deeper reflection on how champions handle change, how stars share the spotlight, and how social media can amplify personal moments into public spectacle. Wilson's reaction wasn't just a one-off event. It followed a concerning pattern that seemed to emerge as Clark's career began to rise. Take the Nike signature shoe deal, for instance. When news broke that Clark would receive her own shoe line, Wilson didn't remain silent. Instead, she posted a series of cryptic and pointed tweets that left the basketball world buzzing. What made made this situation particularly puzzling was that Wilson herself already had a signature shoe deal with Adidas, an accomplishment achieved by only a few WNBA players. Despite her own success, she seemed unable to celebrate another player joining this exclusive club. Things became even more complicated when rumors surfaced about Nike's response. Insiders suggested the company was treading carefully, worried about alienating Wilson and other top athletes in the league. This added another layer to an already tense situation, as the narrative shifted from individual competition to the corporate politics of sponsorships and endorsement. In hindsight, this moment marked a turning point in Wilson's career. It wasn't just about Clark's growing popularity or the Time magazine feature theme, more it became a case study in how stars cope with change, how they handle the pressures of their public persona, and how the evolving nature of sports in the digital age can blur the lines between personal and professional. For Wilson, the road ahead would not just be about her performance on the court. It would also depend on how she navigated the new challenges of being a modern sports icon in an ever-connected world. Established players hold immense influence in sports, and A'ja Wilson demonstrated just how significant that influence could be. Reports surfaced claiming Nike delayed Caitlin Clark's signature shoe release, reportedly out of concern for how Wilson and others might react. Imagine that a major corporation altering its plans because of one player's potential response. But the shoe deal drama was only the tip of the iceberg. When Caitlin Clark's selection to the Indiana Fever became official, Wilson's comments about playing in Indiana raised eyebrows. She claimed to feel intimidated by the crowd and audience largely made up of young girls and families. For fans, this felt out of character. Was this the same Wilson who had thrived in high-stakes playoff games in hostile arenas? The comments didn't align with the image of a dominant champion, leaving many puzzled. The tension grew when basketball legend Rebecca Lobo suggested Wilson might become a unanimous MVP choices statement meant as a compliment. Instead of celebrating the recognition, Wilson supporters attacked Lobo online. What made matters worse was Wilson's silence during this episode. A single tweet from her could have diffused the situation, calming her fans, but she chose not to intervene. The pattern became increasingly clear. Every milestone Clark achieved, every record she broke, seemed to spark a reaction from Wilson. Fans and media began to anticipate Wilson's responses almost as much as Clark's accomplishment. Some outlets even created compilations of Wilson's reactions to Clark's successes, turning what should have been a celebration of basketball into a spectacle of rivalry. The drama didn't just affect Wilson. It began to strain team dynamics within the Las Vegas Aces. Teammates were repeatedly asked about the situation, forced to balance their support for Wilson with acknowledgement of Clark's achievement. It was an awkward, unnecessary balancing act that distracted from the team's goals and their otherwise stellar season. The WNBA front office watched all of this unfold with increasing concern. The league was experiencing unprecedented growth, attracting new fans, media coverage, and sponsors. Yet instead of celebrating incredible plays and rising viewership, headlines were dominated by this growing tension between Wilson and Clark. Veteran players cautiously weighed in, recalling similar transitions during their careers when new stars emerged and established players had to adjust. However, they noted that social media had completely changed the game. What might have once been private frustrations were now public spectacles, scrutinized and shared by millions. Marketing experts also began to question the long-term impact of Wilson's behavior on her brand. She had built an image as a confident, empowering champion who uplifted others, but this ongoing feud threatened to undermine that perception. Sponsors wondered whether associating with someone increasingly seen as divisive might harm their own reputation. The ripple effects extended to game coverage. Commentators became noticeably cautious when discussing Clark, often toning down their praise to avoid provoking another reaction from Wilson. This created an awkward dynamic where even extraordinary performances couldn't be fully celebrated. Behind the scenes, sources revealed growing tensions within the league. Coaches, players, and executives worried that this drama was overshadowing the progress women's basketball had made. Instead of focusing on the game's growth, the narrative kept circling back to the rivalry between two players, fueled by one players' reaction. In the end, Wilson's actions reflected a broader struggle faced by athletes in the modern era. Social media magnifies every word, every tweet, and every reaction, turning personal feelings into public debate. For Wilson, this was more than just a rivalry, it was a lesson in navigating the pressures of stardom in a world where nothing stays private. Wilson's teammates had tried to address the situation privately. They understood how this ongoing pattern was affecting not only her personal reputation, but also the team's chemistry. The Las Vegas Aces were still dominating, racking up wins and maintaining their status as the league's top team. Yet, post-game discussions often veered away from their success and toward Wilson's latest remarks about Caitlin Clark. Social media analysts noticed an intriguing trend. Every time Wilson reacted negatively to Clark's achievements, her follower count dipped slightly. While the numbers weren't huge, it signaled a shift in how fans perceived her. Even some of Wilson's most devoted supporters began questioning whether their champion was fighting the right battle. This drama began to transcend basketball. Major news outlets picked up the story, framing it not just as a sports rivalry, but as a broader narrative of insecurity, change, and the challenges of maintaining dominance in professional sport. Wilson's behavior became a case study in how not to handle competition. Sports psychologists weighed in with thoughtful analysis. They suggested that Wilson's reactions weren't rooted in anger toward Clark, but rather in a deeper struggle with change. Clark's meteoric rise represented more than individual success. It symbolized a shift in the landscape of women's basketball, a sport that had long been dominated by a few key players like Wilson. Meanwhile, other WNBA stars began to position themselves differently. Players like Napheesa Collier and Araike Ogundoyle gained recognition not only for their talent, but also for how they embraced Clark's rise with grace and encouragement. She interacted less with crowds, smiled less on the courted champion who looked burdened rather than inspired by her success. As the season progressed, the pattern became all too predictable. Clark would achieve something notable. Media would celebrate her. Wilson would react, triggering a wave of online backlash from her fans. The cycle repeated itself, leaving players, fans, and analysts exhausted. Those who simply wanted to enjoy the sport found themselves caught in the drama. Looking ahead, questions linger. Can Wilson break free from this cycle? Will Clark's official WNBA debut ease tensions or intensify them? The league's future may depend on how this relationship evolves. For now, what should be a story of women's basketball reaching new heights has instead become a cautionary tale. Success, it seems, can bring out unexpected responses even from the sport's brightest stars. The basketball community is already speculating about the next chapter. Industry experts predict that the first matchup between Wilson's Aces and Clark's Fever will draw record viewership. Ticket prices for those games are already skyrocketing, with fans eager to see the drama play out on the court. Behind the scenes, however, team owners and league executives are concerned. The WNBA thrives on strong personalities and healthy rivalry, but this situation feels different. It's creating fractures within the fan base at a time when unity is critical for the league's continued growth. In the end, this saga serves as a reminder of the double-edged sword that comes with stardom in this social media age. Every tweet, every comment, every reaction becomes part of a player's legacy. For Wilson, this moment could either define her as a player struggling to adapt or as a champion who overcame challenges to grow stronger. When the WNBA should be united in celebrating its growth, the ongoing tension paints a different picture. Caitlin Clark's approach to the situation adds an intriguing contrast. She has maintained a composed, diplomatic stance, never directly responding to Wilson's remark. When reporters attempt to draw her into the drama, she skillfully redirects the conversation to focus on basketball. This mature handling has earned her more admiration, inadvertently making Wilson's reactions seem even more out of place. Sponsors, too, are taking notice. Major brands looking to invest in women's basketball are searching for positive, inspiring stories. Wilson's pattern of behavior is causing unease among marketing executives who now question whether associating their products with her is worth the risk. The narrative of bitterness overshadowing her achievements is not the image they want to promote. The effects are rippling further than just sponsorship. Young players observing the league are having conversations their coaches didn't expect. Some are questioning whether this kind of rivalry is what success in the WNBA looks like. Parents attending youth basketball camps where Wilson was once a celebrated role model are now expressing expressing concerns about their children following her social media account. Ironically, the very platforms that helped Wilson build her brand are now magnifying its vulnerability. Even the local Las Vegas media, typically supportive of Wilson, has begun to shift its tone. Editorials urge her to reconsider her approach, acknowledging her immense contribution to the city's basketball culture while expressing concerns about her legacy. The fear is that this ongoing drama could overshadow her unparalleled success on the court. From a performance standpoint, Wilson's game remains as strong as ever. Her MVP caliber stats have not wavered, proving her dominance on the court. Yet analytics experts highlight an interesting shift. Engagement with her positive highlights has declined, while her controversial moments generate more attention. It's a subtle yet powerful trend that could reshape her career narrative. WNBA historians draw parallels to past power transitions in the league, but emphasize the uniqueness of this situation. Social media has given fans an unprecedented window into the emotional dynamics of star athletes. Every tweet, like, or retweet from Wilson now becomes a chapter in a larger story about how competition is managed in the digital age. As the new season looms, basketball insiders predict that this pattern will either break or intensify. There's no middle ground left. Wilson must decide whether to coexist with Clark's rise to stardom or risk being remembered more for her reactions than her achievements. The critical question isn't whether Wilson will respond to Clark's next milestone, it's how. Will she continue to challenge every accolade Clark received, or will she find a way to celebrate her own legacy without diminishing others? The answer could shape not just Wilson's career, but this entire era of women's basketball. With the league at a pivotal point, the actions of its biggest stars hold the power to either unify or divide. And Wilson's next steps could define the WNBA's future for years to come.